Khloe Kardashian wanted to make a statement about the protests in Baltimore, so she posted possibly the most generic thing you could post about it, and it was met with controversy. She posted a simple picture on Instagram, and all it said was "Pray for Baltimore," and the internet exploded. People were not happy about this. Of course, she had some supporters, but she got so much criticism, she ended up taking it down. So why were they so unhappy with it? Apparently, some people thought that she's so privileged that she doesn't have a right to make any type of comment about what's going on in Baltimore. Yeah. Some felt that she shouldn't side with those who are protesting, which she didn't really do. Again, that was one of the most generic things you could possibly post about it. And then others were just upset because she should be praying for Nepal instead of what's going on in Baltimore.
Spare me. Not one of those criticisms is 1% valid.
Not a single one. And what amazes me is that she took it down. She shouldn't have taken it down. I can understand that she felt pressure to do so. But it's the internet, and people are so unbearably idiotic, it drives me crazy. So she responded to some of the criticism on Twitter, and she said, "Y'all are too much. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. So now it's wrong to pray? What is wrong with some of you guys? Let me pray for you."
Damn. But then don't take it down. Okay, so I was confused when I read the headline as to why she was being criticized. So if you're not entirely sure which way you should criticize her, then maybe you shouldn't criticize her, right? Like, it's so vague and so benign that both sides are like, oh yeah? I knew it! You're for the protesters or against them. But either way, I'm pissed at you. Right. Okay. And in fact, she didn't say any of that. They're just reading their own biases into the most simple statement I've ever heard. Pray for Baltimore.
Nice. I mean, it's thoughts with everybody in Baltimore. A terrible time for, a really underrated American city. Maybe not a great city, but it's underrated because it's rated pretty low.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
But, there's some good parts of Baltimore. There's a cool part of Baltimore. I don't mean a cool section of Baltimore, although there is. I just mean, Baltimore represents a whole different time in America that I appreciate, and why I actually wore an Orioles hat for the last 2 days of these shows. And there are people suffering there, whether you think it's police officers defending against incredibly angry protesters, some of whom are rioting. That's a stressful night for even good cops. Difficult to know how to handle that situation. Obviously difficult for majority of poor Baltimore residents, where 25% unemployment and generational disrespect from Baltimore Police Department. You can pray for them. Store owners whose stuff was burned down or looted, and mostly the family of Freddie Gray. There are a lot of people to be sympathetic there for, and people who live there and just love the city and hate to see, if Los Angeles exploded into riots, or D.C., where I'm from, or Los Angeles, where I live and love, it would be nice if somebody wrote, "I pray for Los Angeles." Here's what I would say: nothing. But if I felt urged to say it, I'd say thanks.
You wouldn't throw feces on the wall like people on the internet?
And enough. You don't, just because you're rich and successful, you don't lose your right to feel empathy or say something kind.
I want to make a quick statement, and it's not even about Baltimore. It's just about the internet in general. People are looking for something to be outraged about, and they will pick on any little thing and blow it out of proportion. So you can't play into that. You can't give them what they want. If they're angry and they're upset over something as benign as that, then they have issues. You're not the one with issues. So again, I feel like at one point, people would do things that actually were controversial on the internet, and people would be outraged. And even the outrage was kind of annoying, right? Now, people are just looking for something to be outraged about, even if it's something that isn't worth being upset about.
Okay. Now, on the city of Baltimore, I lived there for a really short period of time, just 6 months. It was certainly back then, and it probably is still today. It's a tough city, right? But that's why you might want to pray for it, right? It is not living under happy circumstances, oftentimes, and so life's a little tough, especially sometimes when you get arrested for looking at a cop the wrong way, and then your neck gets severed. It's a tough place to live sometimes, right? And look, I'm not a religious person. I'm agnostic. But if you're going to pray for anywhere, Baltimore's a pretty good place, especially when there is so much stuff going on right now there. Now, so again, on all these things, you're anti-cop. So a lot of people who are saying this would probably call themselves conservative, right? Who's accusing Khloe Kardashian. Okay, so you conservatives are against praying. Okay, I don't get it. Even if you were you don't even want us to pray for the black people are so bad in Baltimore. You don't even want us praying for them, right?
You don't waste your prayer on that, right?
Right. Okay. Now to the other side, to the liberals. What about Nepal? Okay, well then we'll pray for Nepal. I'm allowed to pray for two things at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't mean I hate Nepal if I say, hey, I'm concerned about Baltimore.
And you can't vilify people who, although it defies logical sense to be more concerned, in a sense, for one group of people over another, we're Americans. And we respond more to things that happen in America. We're all guilty of that. As the globalization and mass communication has broken down some of those barriers, I'm less that way than I used to be because I'm exposed to more people living in different countries. And I feel like my reaction to Nepal is more human and reflects a more humanistic side of me than it would have 15 years ago. You know,
Great.
Right, that's good. I'm happy about that. That's good. That reflects well on me. But I didn't come from another land. And you kind of came to America with that, recognizing you're like, I like it here, but I got news for you. You're not the only place in the world. we grow up here and we're like, no, you're the only place in the world.
That's right. That's a weird perspective. And finally, to the people who say you're privileged. Well, that's okay. If she's privileged and she can still show empathy for people who are not, that's a great thing. That's not a bad thing. You know who was privileged and wound up helping the poor and the middle class in this country probably more than any person in the last century? FDR. FDR was enormously rich.
Keep it to yourself, Franklin.
Right?
Yeah.
Social Security, Medicare, all these things that he did for people. Well, could you imagine the criticism? Oh, you passed Social Security so people wouldn't starve in the streets.
Look at George.
But you're privileged. How dare you?
Look at George
Well,
W.
what did you
Bush.
want me to do? Be a privileged prick?
George W. Bush, privileged person, and he did. I can't think of anything he did,
But still.
still.
So it depends on the person. It depends on what they're doing. And if they're doing a good thing, take it and run.